What is up, baseball fans? Welcome to another Wednesday of live action here on the Out of the Park Developments channel. I am Associate Baseball Community Manager Kris, aka Snaggle J, and welcome to something a little special that we're going to do on the stream tonight. Later on, we are going to be diving back into our Montreal Expos franchise, trying to beef up the team in the 1982 offseason. But kicking off the stream tonight, we have a special guest. I would like to welcome to the stream Out of the Park baseball developer, Matt Arnold. Matt, welcome to the stream.
Hello, thank you.
We are very glad to have you here to kind of pick your brain, and we're going to talk a little bit of Out of the Park baseball 19 tonight. If you guys have some questions about Out of the Park Baseball 19, feel free to drop them in the chat. Matt will do his best to answer what he can. A few ground rules. We are not going to talk about the perfect team mode on the stream tonight. That is going to be something that we're going to cover in depth at a later date when we get closer to the public beta. And we're not going to talk about the mobile game, MLB Manager, either. Because we're going to have more information on that as we get closer to opening day. But if you have any OOTP 19 base game related questions, feel free to ask them. So Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in working for Out of the Park Developments?
All right, thanks. So I joined the company, I guess, 4 years ago now? Somewhere around then. So, I mean, my start with the company, as I always say, is the great experience of wasting time on online message boards and actually having that pay off. Because I've been playing OTP since a long time ago, and then about whatever it was 4 or 5 years ago, they put a post up and said, "Hey, you want to come work for us?" And so I was like, I'm a programmer. I like OTP. Let's apply and see what it does. And as you say, the rest is history.
So do you have a special area of focus in development of the game, or are you just kind of, all over getting your fingerprints on the final product?
I work basically with everything. Mostly it's whatever Marcus doesn't want to do, he gives to me. So, and whatever I don't want to do, I give to Marcus. So we work pretty well as a team overall. But yeah, most of what I do is just kind of everything really. Like a lot of the interaction between the game and the 3D, and rewriting trade logic and general AI and general stuff that goes on. Most of the time, if you're looking at a screen that looks really nice, that's not me, because I don't do that. If you're looking at a screen that looks kind of ugly, that's probably is me.
Okay.
Or it's something Marcus did 15 years ago.
So considering that we are roughly 7 weeks away from release, do you sleep? Do you sleep this time of year?
I still get some sleep in, but I certainly the work hours pick up a little bit after Christmas, and don't really let off until we're out the door in the end of March. And
I guess once the beta testers get their hands on this game, I think that starts tomorrow, correct? I think it is.
Our internal beta, starts this week, and then
so then you start getting feedback from that, and then it's a lot of problem solving, and
as I like to say, it's the next week or two is fixing all the stuff that I've broken in the last 6 months at work, when it's just been only a couple of us looking at the builds, and then hopefully I think the beta will go well, and there's always still time to add a few more little things in, and
yes.
So if anyone has suggestions, I always say keep posting them, and we'll see what we can get to either before release or after release. I forget if it was last year or the year before, where someone, I forget what exactly it was, but I know they posted on like a Sunday night. It was like the weekend of release or something. So they posted on a Sunday night being like, "Hey, I was thinking this would be cool, or I was wondering if you could do this." And I read it, and I was like, that sounds cool. And so I was like, let's do that. And so I like spent a couple hours on like Monday morning. We had a build that went up that we did on like Monday afternoon, and like it went live to the public like the next day. So
well, that happens. You know,
they like to be nice and responsive.
It's a like I know like I've only been officially part of the team since October, but I was on the beta test team for the last 2 years. And it's absolutely, you know, amazing how quick that you and the rest of the team are to kind of dive into the issues that we find as testers, and kind of, you know, if you need more feedback, I know you're asking the right questions, and things are getting updated on an hourly basis. And there seems to be a new build, you know, like as you get later on, there seems to be a new build almost every day.
Oh yeah, certainly the last like 2 or 3 weeks, the beta period, it's daily builds, and that's when we're scrambling to get the last things in to fix, as well as scrambling to make sure that we don't screw anything up.
Yes.
Yeah, I've done that before too.
All right, so let's jump in and take some questions from the chat. Raging Acid wants to know if he wants to know specifically about Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s scouting report. Have you seen it, and is he immediately a 5-star potential prospect? That's more for me.
I mean, if he's not a 5-star prospect, then we need to fix our scouting or rating systems.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen it. I don't actually do the ratings.
Yep.
Basically, that's Lucas, and he's got a whole bunch of people who handle that, and they do a fantastic job of updating everyone in every league around the world's ratings and potentials and stuff. And they do a great job with that. And whenever I actually get a chance to sit down and play the game, that's when I look and see how people actually are. But I can't wait to see that too, because yeah, he's an awesome prospect.
Yep. Well, and because you mentioned ratings and scouting, what can you say specifically has changed in the scouting and the way scouting reports are generated? Candle says he's heard about smarter logic and increased customization, but can you give like an example of what that might be?
So the scouting reports, we're still trying to work through some stuff with them. The main thing that's changed, I would say, is in the text, the sort of the text report that you get for players. It's so we've changed and rejigged that and rewritten that, so it's hopefully should read a little bit more like a real scouting report and not just like 6 distant and separate lines that in some cases have no actual basis in their stuff. You know, I remember some of the scouting reports in the past where you'd get Andrelton Simmons is a 5-star player, and it's, you know, your report text would be like, he's an awesome player, like middle of the lineup bat, and you're like, well, no, he's a 5-star player because he's amazing defensively. So I know we fixed some of that up in the past, but we really put a lot of stuff into redoing the text output of that this year. So that should hopefully read a lot better, give you a little bit more insight into the players. We also added stuff with like the arm slot came in kind of at the same time with that.
Yeah, so, and I know I did see, I think, I can't remember if it was you or someone else who answered that question on the forums. How is the arm slot going to play a factor in the game?
I mean, people can't get too excited about it. It's, in some sense, a pretty minor thing. It's more just another thing that we use internally to kind of generate splits for players, for pitchers. So, you know, the submarine, basically it's just another way to have the submariners be the extreme, you know, righty one out only guys or something like that.
Okay. And
then hopefully as we go through, we'll also be able to incorporate it a little bit more. Like at some point, you certainly want to get it into the in-game so you can see the actual pitcher throwing from different arm slots. But
right.
That's going to take a little work from Joran's side, and he's pretty busy with other stuff right now. So
yes.
That's probably not coming out until at least the summer, maybe next year. But
okay. Question from the Bouts. What are some new features that users can expect in challenge mode?
exactly we've done with the challenge mode this year. I don't think there's nothing too much specific to the challenge mode, at least that we can talk about quite yet. I mean, the new features that impact the rest of the game are all going to impact challenge mode. So,
okay. Has there been any updates or revampness to the trade engine, specifically with when it comes to will there be 3-team trades?
3-team trades, no. That's a can of worms that I don't want to go down.
No. Has there been updates to the trade engine system otherwise?
Yes, that's actually basically what I spent the last 2 days working on.
There you go.
So we've certainly done a lot of tweaks, especially to the draft pick trading AI, because that basically didn't work before. And I know my dad always says that he would just trade for the number 1 pick by giving up a low first and a 5th round pick or something, and so you won't be able to do that anymore.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll do that. And with that, obviously, comes a whole bunch of other, tweaks to the general logic of just making sure we're evaluating things correctly.
Yeah, and I think like with the 3-team, like I am not a developer, but one thing I can tell you from being involved in a lot of different sports gaming communities, 3-team trades is asked for by the community in pretty much every sports game, and pretty much anyone who develops any sports game will tell you the amount of developing and processing power and behind the scenes AI that is required to make that work is like most people couldn't fathom what it would take to make a 3-team trade make sense in a video game.
To get the interface working and to completely redo the entire internal structures of everything for the maybe 1 trade a year that happens to be a 3-team trade, like if they happened all the time, then we'd have to think about it. But I mean, there's nothing stopping if you want to just trade for one guy and then trade who you get to another team. Like, you can still do that right now.
Yeah.
People might get pissed off or something, but
yeah. Sal has a question about online leagues. What I would recommend, Sal, if you're looking for tutorials on how to set up an online league, the forums is probably the best place for you to go. I've personally never done it. I mean, Matt, you probably have some insight into online leagues and how they work, but I mean, the forums I'm sure you could find a step-by-step tutorial on the forums on how to do it.
Yeah, definitely for that. I would say always ask on the forums, and there's a lot of helpers there. I know it was at least someone last year or something went through a whole process of how to get a league basically set up with, it was like them and their dad or something, and going through just the sort of logistics of how to set things up. I think that was on the forums.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sure if you go to the forums, it's probably sticky somewhere. I'm sure I've seen several different tutorials on different ways to set up online leagues. Zogo is asking about what I think is probably the most exciting new feature is what can you tell us about what to expect with the 3D changes to players in stadiums? Now, I don't know how much you're involved with the 3D aspect, but what can you tell us about it? What's some things that people can kind of expect from the 3D additions to the game?
So the 3D is beautiful. That's like so I'm partly involved in the 3D. Basically, Joran is sort of the main 3D guy. He handles all the physics and basically all the stadium work. So he did a lot of work this year on, there's like a whole new lighting model or something like that with stadiums, and like honestly, it's this thing where like when I load up the game and like one of these new stadiums pops up, you just like sit there and watch it because it's like it's so bright and it just like it feels so much more like you're there even compared to the past. So that's in terms of the stadiums, and then the players like on the field have gotten a whole nother update too. So we went from 2 years ago to having the sort of chess piece pawns to last year having the sort of little mannequin figurine sort of things, and this year we've got full player models. So like they're little people who run around on the field and who throw and dive and catch. And so I work mostly on sort of moving them around the field.
Yep.
So we're doing our best to make sure that they're handling everything properly, and we're always updating, just to make sure that the balls are rolling at the right speeds, and players are being sort of fluid in their motions. But it's certainly come a long way.
Yeah, I have not personally seen them. I've been in some email threads where people have talked about their excitement level on them, and I am pretty pumped up. We've had a lot of people in the various social medias asking us, when can we see it? When can we see it? And I mean, it's still actively being worked on. The answer I always give is, you know what? When we're and the development team and the graphics team are happy with where the 3D models are at, that's when we'll start showing them off.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, stay tuned.
We've also completely redone the in-game screen.
Yeah.
And that also is just like Marcus has just shown off the sort of final beta image or whatever of that to a few of us, and it's just it's spectacular. Like it's
S Carton Plays. Unfortunately, we do not do pre-orders on Steam. You can head to Steam, and if you go down below the video right now, there should be a link there to the pre-order page, and then there's a Steam link. You can add it to your wish list. The game will be 10% off the first week it's on Steam, to make up for the fact that we can't do pre-orders, to answer your question. Let's see. We got some really good questions. Has there been any improvement to the AI drafting logic? Specifically when it comes to good hitters disguised as pitchers? I guess that could lead us into our two-way player discussion as well, or the other way around.
Yeah, so we still need to look into that a little bit more, especially the two-way players.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've done a lot of work in a lot of the rest of the game with making sure that guys like Ohtani actually get used properly. Like I know in my first sort of sim through the season, I think he had 28 starts and he had 300 something plate appearances, and did pretty solid overall. Not a superstar, but his ratings also don't think have been updated yet. But it's at least it's nice to see if he can actually get sort of a realistic usage from what we all kind of expect from him. And then with a lot of that stuff, it's also we've done a lot of internal ratings calculation stuff too. So I'd expect and hope that the AI should also be able to better use draft guys who might have some extra talents one way or the other, and actually be able to sort of, if not develop them actually as a two-way player, then at least try to choose the correct side to use them on.
Does it, when you're working on, like, I mean, specifically this comes up now because of Ohtani, of course. When you're working on something like that with the very small sample size of two-way players you have to go with to try to fine-tune this, how much more difficult does that make it to be confident that you've nailed the development process to try to replicate that properly?
I mean, in some ways I'd almost say it's easier, just because, I mean, for Ohtani we just have almost nothing to go on, so in a lot of ways, anything that we do will kind of be right until he starts playing and in the MLB and actually, we see. So in some ways, it's easier that way. So we kind of have a little bit more leeway to sort of guess at how things go. But then obviously you have the problem of, because it is, kind of just one guy who's doing this. Yeah, it's always nice to have a sample size of things.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we're not going sort of too far, because we don't want necessarily the entire league turning into two-way players in a couple of years down the road or something.
Yeah, that's probably not the direction Major League Baseball is heading in.
Probably not. Although I could see that being as a fun league to try if we could actually get that going. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah. Shadows, we're not going to talk about Perfect Team tonight. We are going to cover that a lot more on a future stream when we get closer to the beta, the public beta that we're going to do for Perfect Team. If you head over to the forums, if you go to the Q&A there, Marcus has kind of elaborated a little bit on some things the mode's going to entail. So I definitely recommend that you check that out for now. Brandon Stewart, we did talk about the trade engine already. There will not be multi-team trades just because of the sheer complexity of how it would be to get them in the game. So that's not going to be something that, is going to be in this year. New logos for fictional teams. Will the fictional teams have new uniforms as well?
I don't think we've generated or we've produced uniforms for them, so I don't think so. But we do, as I said, we have, I don't know how many hundreds of fictional team logos.
Yeah.
So you won't have to have that, R and that diamond for your expansion team in San Antonio the first year anymore.
Oh, there you go. What kind of process does the team go through to determine if the game is producing realistic and accurate results for both team records and players? Do you only project forward, or do you try to sim past seasons to try to compare to real-life results?
So, obviously we have all the history in the game, so when we're testing this stuff, we got to make sure that everything works both in the past and the present and the future, which is in some ways the hardest problem, because whenever I go through and tweak reliever usage for like one specific case, you always have to think, well, this works now, but is this also going to work in 1910 when teams only have 2 relievers on their staff or something? But otherwise, for the in-game stuff and that, we basically sim through, and whatever we're looking at, we just try to compare and make sure everything makes sense. So anything from the high level, just to make sure the teams are scoring the right number of runs in the season, down to the, relievers are getting the right number of, pitches per plate appearance, or pitches per inning, or innings per game, or, there's 10 million stats records that we output. So we just try to make sure that they match to whatever we're trying to match as good as we can.
Excellent. Will the ratings come straight from Zips, or will there be some curving up and down for certain players?
So as I said, I'm not directly involved in the rating system. I think that's Lucas and team's job. Mm-hmm. So I know the default is we get our dump of Zips, and then we import that into the system to give us the current ratings for all the guys. Our team goes through and does all the potentials and tweaks for those and the prospects as well. So that's all done by the team. And then obviously, once we get the Zips update from the regular season, we do always adjust. There's always little tweaks here or there. Places that we disagree with Zips with, especially for a lot of young players or players without a lot of history in the league, like the Zips. And any projection system is kind of wildly off on them in a lot of cases. So
right.
A lot of that is, sometimes you got to tweak some guy up just to make sure that the team, keeps him in the pros and doesn't drop him down to A-ball right away. Yeah. And then if they do end up dropping him later, then we'll go through and readjust things as we go through. They're basically always working on updating ratings.
Projecting prospects, is really, like, for a video game, is really no different than trying to project a prospect in real life. Sometimes you're going to short sell a guy, and sometimes you're going to miss on a guy who thought was going to be a surefire superstar and ends up being a bust, and sometimes you're going to get it just right. And I think in the video game ratings world, it's pretty much the same. There's always tweaks and stuff, and I think it's fantastic to see, as the quick starts and the rosters come out, throughout the season, and people start making their own rosters and things like that, where the variabilities go.
Oh yeah, there's always updates. We always have to continuously do things, and a lot of stuff too. There's just you have to play around with them too, because every now and then Zips will come with some A-ball guy and show him as like a current superstar, and we gotta drop that down a little bit because if he's still playing in A-ball right this year, well, he's not a major league superstar yet. So, but no, the team that we have, like, I don't know how many people are on it, but they do a great job of knowing basically every player and every prospect and every system in every league around the world too. It's not just MLB that we have. We've got all these leagues too that I don't even know anything about. So
it's kind of funny because you dive into the game, and I mean, I consider myself to be a upper tier baseball fan, and then you find some obscure team in some obscure league. I ran a on stream here just before or around Christmas time. We did an Australian Baseball League 2017 league, and we were finding like some former major league players who were playing down there, and it's just like, oh my god, I had no idea that they were down there just crushing it in Australia. It's
and then it's always funny when you get 2 years later and one of those guys makes it to the MLB, and you're like, I remember that guy from my team.
I remember him. You start going to like your other save files and like bookmarking these guys. I gotta remember this guy. He plays in the Aussie League. Let me see. So when it comes to the new ultra realistic AI, what can you kind of? I know we kind of talked about the ratings and the two-way player, but in terms of just basic AI management, what kind of new stuff are we going to see there?
So the biggest one is that it's been quite a bit of time this year updating a lot of our, what I would call the sort of internal ratings logic. So I've been frustrated with this in the past, and it's inconsistent, and things have never quite worked very well. So I kind of dug it out and overhauled it. And so with that, hopefully that means everyone's ratings should show up, especially their overall and potentials will be more consistent, more accurate, closer to what they actually are in real life, or how you expect they would be based on how they play and all that too. Yeah. And then the big thing with that is that should hopefully translate to basically every other aspect of the game, so that once we fix up the internal ratings, that should give the AI smarter trades and smarter lineup decisions, because everyone is going to be actually closer to what they are in real life.
Awesome. Yeah, no.
So, in terms of these sort of changes you might not notice, that one might have the biggest impact, and hopefully it will be a big positive for it too. But you're not really going to see that because it's nothing visible to the outside.
Excellent. Okay, so and now one thing that I've seen so many people doing backflips over, and that I really didn't realize was such a huge ask for people, was the ability to run standalone tournaments. I don't think it's really anything that needs a giant long-winded explanation, but I mean, are you happy to be able to get the standalone tournament brackets into the game? Were you surprised at how big of a demand this was in the community?
There's always a lot of things that people ask for and are good to play. So it's I mean, some things are easy to do, some things are not, and we just kind of go through and pick and try to do what we can. But yeah, I mean, the tournaments came in new last year, was it? Yeah. And, they were fun to get done the first time, and it's always fun to see sort of how they go and how they, how the mode will progress over time and how much more we can add to them.
Yep. Echo Man's wondering if we plan on putting out predictions for any franchises in the upcoming year. TJ and I are planning on doing a 2018 simulation stream. I don't know exactly when, to be 100% honest. I would suggest if you go follow us on the old social medias, we'll be tweeting and Facebooking about when we're going to do that. But we're definitely planning on doing a 2018 simulation, very in depth. will there ever be a time where you can take a team in an online league and match them up to another team in the same online league, but from a different season?
I mean, will there ever be? It depends if we ever get around to stuff. Like, that's definitely, it's come up a few times in the forums, and I've thought about it myself too. Like the old, like, you know, I remember my World Series champion team from 5 years ago. Like, I wonder if I could actually, you know, have them play against my current team, like which one would win. So we'll keep thinking of if there is a way to do that that doesn't involve, like, you know, exporting the league and then importing things in a different way and then like creating a fake league and like a fake tournament and like running that and then like deleting the old one and, you know, double checking that stuff imports and accidentally forgetting things and now having 2 Trouts in the league or something like that. So, but that's somewhere on the, I would say, on the deep radar. I wouldn't say that's on the close radar.
Well, and that leads me into the next question, and it's a loaded question, I know, but are there any elements the team wants to have in the game but are not currently possible?
I mean, if you saw my wish list, my task list, you would see that, like, I could not add anything to that and probably have like 3 years of work just from that, for all things that I want and that I want to add.
Yeah.
And whenever I like check off one item from the list, it always seems like there's been at least 2 or 3 more things added in the meantime. So like we've got stuff that will keep me busy as long as the company is still paying for my salary. So
is there one thing on that whiteboard with a big giant star next to it that's like kind of near and dear to your heart that you would love to see go out in an OOTP newsletter?
I mean, I wouldn't say there's sort of one thing, anything specific, just because generally speaking, anything on the top of my list is something that I'll just do. So there's always a little bit of leeway in terms of what we can actually get in. So, you know, a few years ago, it was the multi-threading stuff was just, I was like, you know, we should get this in and do this.
Yeah.
And then once Marcus and Andreas basically told me, like, yeah, you can go ahead and fiddle with that and play with that and, you know, don't screw anything up. It was like, all right, I'll go play with this, and that was fun to get in. So
it's funny because I mean we're on the verge of the release of the 19th version of this game, and you know it's still being able to find, you know, things that get people hype, additions to the game that don't necessarily fundamentally change the way the game is played, but just, you know, add to the experience after, you know, so many iterations of the game. Is just, it amazes me and so many people that you guys are constantly able to, you know, reinvent the game, but without reinventing the game. That's really what the cool part is of OTP for me.
I mean, it's such a sort of weird dichotomy of like the game in some ways is just like so perfect of how it is, but it's also like there's so many things that I want to do, and there's so many ways that every year we come out and do something that just makes it better, and it's like, yeah, it's awesome.
Yep, I agree 100%. Where was I? Let's see, what else we got? Any plans to update the game manual for OTP 19? Lots of features are not very well defined, explained, or updated.
So I think isn't USF on the beta team? So like, if I remember right, at least you were up before. That yeah, we need to like get around to that. But I hate updating the manual. Yeah, so you're on the beta team. I'm on the chat here. I can see. So like, just like yell at us, and we'll try to get whatever we can done. I hate updating the manual personally, and I think that's true of most developers. So yeah, we really need to update that at some point.
Really need to. Yeah, Bull League. I'm not sure if that's the case. If you can't, if they don't have the individual team, I can't think of where it is right off the top of my head. The individual team managerial history. If it's not something that's there, I can definitely we can definitely forward it on and see
Yeah, no,
if it's something.
I've seen that asked in the past too, where it's actually pretty tough to find the like who was managing this team, 5 years ago, sort of thing. That
Yeah.
we'll try to do something with that, but yeah, it's whenever we get around to it.
Yeah, it's another one for the whiteboard.
Yeah, no, I've seen that asked about in multiple places, and it is somewhere there on the wish list, but.
Matt, oh sorry, were you a fan of Earl Weaver baseball or Front Page Sports Baseball Pro?
I was not. I did not delve into either of those. I've been in a Stratomatic league with my family for, I think since '93 or '94.
Nice.
That was sort of my first sort of fantasy league stuff.
Yep. What kind of baseball video game experience do you have, if any, outside of OOTP, of course?
As a user, so I mean, in the history in the past. So I mean, as I said, I've been in a Stratomatic league before. I found OTP. I was one of those baseball mogul people who, but once you see OTP and you find the light, you realize how. Really there's no comparison.
I know the feeling well.
And then, I mean, otherwise, I don't actually really do anything else. Like, I don't actually play MLB The Show. I don't really go through any of the other ones. But, I mean, OTP is enough for me, and that's given that I spend an ungodly number of hours during the day on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to, when you get sucked into the OOTP Vortex. It's hours just fly away, and all of a sudden your day is gone, and that's just it.
Oh yeah, it's when you see the number of hours some people have on their Steam or on their user accounts, it's quite shocking, especially when I look at what my development stream shows me for the number of hours that I've played, and it's not actually that high. So
you gotta have to pick it up. Is what you're saying?
Well, as I know, there's a few people like on the beta teams who have probably put in more hours to the game than like Marcus has potentially even. So
let's see, where am I? Echo Man. I wouldn't say we would never plan on coming to Fenway Park. I don't think there's anything in the works right now. But never say never. Fenway Park is very, very close for a lot of us on the social media team, for TJ and myself, and specifically. So never say never. I love Fenway Park. I've been there several times. What is the status on football? We're not going to talk about that on the stream, USF, but you can go to the forums. What's posted in the forums is the most recent update. I don't really have anything more to tell you other than that. Let's see. Oh, I think I might have saw this on Twitter. Might have missed it, but in my most recent game of Out of the Park 18, I was missing the playoff histories of players before 2017, as well as past championships for players. Has this been fixed for 19?
I'm not. I believe if I remember the history of that, then it was like an early build last year. We didn't import the playoff histories for players.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we may have. I think we got around to fixing that on the quick starts or whatever partway through the season.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember right. I mean, I might not be, but so I'm pretty sure if you started a new game, you would actually have that information. If we have it, I think we do. Maybe not. I don't know.
Okay.
That's the roster team and the stats teams, and yeah.
Excellent. So before I let you go, I got to put you in the hot seat one time. You're loading up OTP. You can start with any team in any season. What is your go-to right off the bat, team and season?
So, I mean, my problem is, so I have my current personal game that I work through, and I've been actually working through that for quite a few years now. Actually, I think I started I started it before I started working with the company, and like every season I like import through that to the next year, and I always tell myself like, all right, I'm gonna play like one more year of this game, and then I'm gonna like, shut it down and we'll start a new game. If I start a new game, I usually like to start the current season just because it's nice to have all the current repeats and stuff. And then, but I can basically never put this game down because every time I'm like, I'll just play one more season and then I get like, the hotshot guy who comes up and, hits 60 home runs in his rookie year. And I'm like, well, I can't quit now. Or I, make it to the World Series, but I like lose in Game 7, and it's just like, oh come on, I gotta fix that up. So my current one is a Blue Jays team that I've been playing since, as I said, about 2014. Nice. I'm up to I think 2080.
Whoa.
2082 maybe or something. I think I have 25 championships or something like that with the team. I can also see that the first year that I started working for OTP, because that was like the first year that I missed the playoffs.
I mean, being a fellow Canadian, I can respect that.
Yeah. So I mean, as much fun as it is to go back, like I was born in Montreal. I was an Expos fan growing up. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think I would really want to go back to like play like starting in the '94 Expos because it's like it's almost too easy. Yeah. Like, and it's like, yeah, well, okay, I'll not be an asshole and sell the whole team off. Like, yeah, I can continue building a dynasty, but I kind of prefer like building up from the start. Yeah. Although I always tell my current team like they're a pretty damn good team, and I don't get a chance to build them up, but I just kind of like to keep playing with them. So, nice. As I said, I'm 2080 something now, and it's I just can't put it down. Yeah.
My go-to is usually 85 Blue Jays. Which a lot of people kind of snap their head backs when I say the 85 Jays are probably my favorite Jays team of all time. Just because nobody expected them to be any good, and they were really good, and they had a lot of great players. So for me, it's 85 Jays. I love loading up those 85 Jays and then immediately trading Buck Martinez just out of spite because I can't stand him as a commentator. But that's another discussion for another day.
I had a quite long conversation with a couple people about Buck as a commentator actually just this last weekend. So
I hope you guys were all in agreement that he's terrible.
He's terrible, but he's got like a quality that I just like. Yeah. I can't like turn it off or like I still listen to it when I can choose the visiting commentators most of the time. But yeah, it's like it's terrible, but it's just like that's the voice that you're familiar with or know. So
yeah, when he's Dan Shulman's like side man, he's great. In short little bursts as a color guy, he's fantastic. But I mean, like he's like his homerish home run calls. He's bordering on Hawk Harrelson bad in that department.
Yeah, no, it's.
Oh. Well, listen, Matt. I appreciate you very much for joining the stream and talking Out of the Park Baseball 19. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Matt Arnold, developer. Any final words, Matt? What do you want to leave everybody with to look forward to for 7 weeks from now?
Well, thanks for having me on. And yeah, 7 weeks is always one of these like, oh dear God, that's coming out very fast. But no, it's a good game, and certainly I think it's once people see the in-game screen and like the in-game 3D, it's just like. It's like honestly, like I loaded up the build a couple days ago that I know Marcus has been working on this for such a long time, and like I loaded up and I flipped to the new screen and I just like kind of like my jaw dropped and it was just like, oh my God, this is just oh my God. So yeah, I think it's a good year. A lot of good changes, and I hope everyone has fun with it.
I think the hype is real. It's like I said, it's exciting being on this side of the fence this time of year, and it's going to be so great to see when the game does start getting in people's hands, the excitement and the reactions. Because yeah, I think you guys have definitely been working towards a game that's going to be, again, just another step up for a game that's already very close to being at the top step at what it does. So yeah, I think people should be really excited for March 22nd. But if you head over to otpdevelopments.com and pre-order right now, you get 10% off, and you can play the final beta build 3 days early on March 19th. Don't you want to be able to play it 3 days earlier than the rest of your friends? Go pre-order right now, otpdevelopments.com. Thank you very much, Matt, for coming on. I won't take up any much more of your time because Marcus will probably beat me if I don't get you back into the dungeon and get back to developing this game. Folks, I'm going to be back in about a minute. I'm going to take a quick 30-second break, and then we're going to be back with the 1982 off-season for the Montreal Expos. But yeah, Matt, thank you very much for coming on the stream, bud.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, guys, I'll be back in a hot minute. But for now, enjoy the loading screen.